before COVID, India's molecular diagnostics penetration was only 12%. COVID pushed us to quickly scale up to around 80% of molecular diagnostics. We scaled up from 0 to million units in less than 3 months' time, and we could really deploy 1 million units during COVID with zero contamination.
Oh, fantastic.
We started with the vision of building premium molecular biology products from India. I think now we want to be the leader in that space. So we have a couple of plans to get into the consumer genomic space and be a global leader in the space.
Your transition from a scientist to an entrepreneur of Azuka Labs, let's talk about it.
It was accidental. So I didn't plan this, to be honest.
What were the challenges?
I didn't understand anything of business. Sometimes in the early conversations that we used to have with investors or with somebody else, a lot of words would go off my mind because I really didn't understand what it meant. So for me personally, I think it was a very transformative journey because I had to unlearn a lot of things, let go of my scientific ego, the so-called big ego that scientists have, and really simplify solutions.
She's on a mission, scientist in the lab and boss in the boardroom. Dr. Fatima Benazir, founder of Azuka Labs, is going places. And today in this episode of Game of Growth, we are going to talk about her story, her journey and her vision for Azuka Labs. Hello Fatima, how are you?
Hi, good. Thank you, Shruti. How are you?
I'm doing good. So the first question that I have for you is, your transition from a scientist to an entrepreneur of Azuka Labs. Let's talk about it.
It was accidental. So I didn't plan this, to be honest. But I was very passionate about research and doing science. So I was doing a postdoc, trying for postdocs abroad. So that is when Alex, who happens to be my co-founder as well as my friend from school, met my mother, and she apparently told him that this girl is not stopping studying, do something with her, give a bit of advice to her. So then we started having conversations, and I was looking to get some help from him to get a postdoc position abroad. So during these conversations, Alex found that I had done a lot of work. I was passionate about doing what I was doing. So he asked me a couple of questions which really changed my perception towards what I was doing. So he said, I see that you're really passionate. You spend all your time in the lab doing work. What do you do next? So I told him, yeah, we publish our work. So he asked, after publications, what is it? Then I told him, yeah, probably I want to publish in the Cell or the Nature. That's what every scientist wants. He said, what next? I said, citations maybe. What next? I really didn't have an answer to this. So he really asked me a question that opened up my mind in directions that I hadn't thought before. So he told me, are you trying to tell me that you are burying your lifelong's worth and passion in books that the common man doesn't understand? Is that what you're actually doing? That really made me think. We had a lot of conversations like this, and then he said, maybe I see that you have a lot of passion and potential. Why don't you build something that will really create an impact or build something of value from your research rather than just targeting publications? I was really blown off because I was a hardcore academician at that point in time, very introverted, and I didn't know what business was. I told, see, come on, I know only science and experiments, I can't do business, that's not my forte. Then he said, maybe I can help you with it, with the business part.
I think the partnership started when I met Dr. Fatima Benazir with an amazing innovation. The first thing that we understood was I saw that she had a dye which is a DNA binding dye which we reported after 48 years, and that was history. And this product was earlier a PhD thesis. It didn't get to become a product. Coming from a product background, I told her that this product deserves to go out into the world. And that's when she was reluctant, saying that I don't know how to build a business around it. And because I had the experience of building a business earlier, because I had worked in a business earlier, I could understand how to build a product, how to build a business, and how to make it as a platform. So that's when I told her that you take care of the science, I'll take care of building the business around it.
I started making a lot of progress, much at a very rapid pace. In 6 months' time, during my postdoc itself, I had an MVP. So then I think Alex really understood when he did the market research and stuff, he understood that he also got passionate about it and he jumped in full time. And we started Azuka unofficially in 2015. And that's how I became an entrepreneur.
So we'll speak more about Azuka, Fatima, but I want to know about your childhood. You know, who was your role model? And like you said that, you know, your mother said that, you know, she keeps studying. So how was it?
Yeah, I think I had a very happy childhood and I've been fortunate. I personally consider being fortunate because both my parents were working. My mom retired as a treasury officer in the Nilgiris district, and both were forward minded to really encourage me and let me do what I wanted, especially my mom. She was a very ambitious person. So she always used to say, you should do something you should be in a position where you command and never in a position where you are employed to somebody else. I would say, I think initially my mom was an inspiration to me, and after that I've had several role models, mostly my teachers who have shaped me to what I am today. But yeah, I think that's where I get that ambition from. So she always used to say, don't settle for less or enough. Don't settle for it.
All mothers are true heroes, I feel.
Really. I think especially in our community, it's very rare to find that kind of an encouragement from the mother. So yeah, so that way, I think that made all the difference to me. I'm sure if it was not for her, I wouldn't have come this far.
So Azuka, let's talk about Azuka. How did you think of this name?
It's not me, to be very honest. I think Alex is very good with these names and one-liners. So apparently, he was the director of product management at Zoho. He used to handle worldwide marketing there.
Right.
So he used to travel a lot, and I think in somewhere he had a disconnect with software when he was apparently at a Brazilian salsa bar called Azúcar. So while we were thinking of names, I think that came to his mind, and he said, "We'll go with Azuka." I was very bad at this. It sounded really fancy. Anybody you say to this, Azuka Bazooka. So that's the kind of response we get, and eventually we also figured out that Azuka or Aska in Tamil means sugar. So we thought it's going to be a sweet journey too, and that's how we named Azuka.
I'm sure it will be. So Azuka, our research team was doing some work and, you know, getting to know the company more. And they mentioned something called Tintorang.
Yeah.
Do you want to speak a little bit more about
that's our first product, or I should say the first MVP that we built. So it is a food grade safe dye that binds to DNA and RNA, primarily used in RT-PCR. So what we were trying to do at that point in time was trying to eliminate hazardous and carcinogenic chemicals from the lab. So the molecule that competes with Tintorang is primarily cancer-causing, mutation-causing, and a biohazard. So we are the first in the world to really come up with a food-grade safe dye which can bind to DNA and exhibit these properties. I know earlier people never knew what DNA was or RT-PCR was. Thanks to COVID, I think now people at least connect to what we do.
Yes, absolutely.
So it was primarily a red colored dye. So we wanted it to all the molecular, for example, right? We wanted to do Azuka with the mission of building premier molecular biology products from India, because Alex strongly felt that India is known for Me Too or cheap or the service market, and there were no innovative products that India was related to. So that was the actual vision we started Azuka with, and so we wanted to have an Indian name. So tinto means red in Brazilian Portuguese again, and rang means color, so it's a red colored dye. So that's what it means.
Nice, nice.
So I think the first molecular biology product with kind of an Indian name. So
Okay.
that's tinto rang.
Okay, that's interesting. Nice. You spoke about the challenges as a company you faced. Let's talk about you. Being an entrepreneur is tough. Probably being a woman entrepreneur is tougher. What were the challenges?
I would say that for any entrepreneur, right, the journey is tough. I don't see a difference for genders.
Right.
Other than probably as a woman, you have to manage your home and your children, which is an additional responsibility. Maybe not all other counterparts may have. But for me, I think primarily the biggest challenge was, convincing my family, because they feel with two children, why would you want to take a journey which is riskier? Why can't you take up a job that is going to be consistent? You may have some security. Why do you want to do this? You don't even know this. You are a scientist. So there's a lot of perceptions that people have, right? Okay, she's an introvert. She's a scientist. She doesn't know what the world is. How is she going to do business? So those kind of stigma, that was my biggest challenge during the early days. And social stigma also to some extent, right? Not only me, I think Azuka also has faced a lot of these kind of issues with stigma. Okay, when we go to customers, they say we trust only high-class German or American products.
Yes.
We won't use Indian products. People have told this to our faces. So that's sometimes I think the biggest challenge is people's perception. Right, people's perception of things and their unwillingness to even really try something.
Try something.
They
Accept.
don't even try. They
Yeah.
don't even try. So it took me a lot of that. And personally for me, right, because I was a very shy person to myself and my lab, and I didn't understand anything of business. Sometimes in the early conversations that we used to have with investors or with somebody else, a lot of words would go off my mind because I really didn't understand what it meant. So for me personally, I think it was a very transformative journey because I had to unlearn a lot of things, let go of my scientific ego, the so-called big ego that scientists have, and really simplify solutions, right? Because the scientist's mind is not trained that way. We are trained to analyze and work on very complex problems in complex ways.
Right.
So simplifying itself becomes a challenge. So I think for me personally, all these were my initial challenges, right? My inabilities itself was a challenge. So I really had to work hard. Especially unlearning was the most toughest part because you've acquired a lot of habits and skills out of your years, and unlearning those and letting go was even more challenging. But I think looking back now, I really feel I'm a really transformed person, and this journey has given me a good understanding of myself as well as the research that I do. And probably customers and what they really look for from companies is something I think the journey has taught me.
Good you spoke about it because on one side we speak about Atmanirbhar Bharat, on the other side we are a little hesitant to, especially when it comes to the medical field. We are a little hesitant to accept Indian products.
True. Very true.
Yeah.
We still face that sometimes, but
Right.
but people have changed because people, when they try our products, they really love it.
Right.
So I think for us now the challenge is only getting them to try.
How to
Once
up
they
the game.
yeah, when they try it, they come back to us. They stay with us. So that's
Right.
something that we.
Do you feel that there's a gap in the Indian biotech ecosystem?
Of course, there is a big gap in the Indian biotech ecosystem, in my opinion. The gap is really huge because I think even if you look at the recent biotechnology report or the bio report policy released by DBT, if I'm not wrong, if you see more than 90% of whatever revenue that is reported is from services than products from India. And so I think there is a big gap in the innovation part. where products are being built from indigenously from our ecosystem. I think that's a big gap, and I think there are reasons for this gap as well, right? Because the investment ecosystem for biotech in India is very nascent.
Right.
So I think you will definitely agree that risk capital. So the Indian investors don't have an appetite for risk capital because biotech involves a lot of trial and error. Sometimes the gestation periods are very long, right? For us, it took us around 5 to 6 years to roll out a product that could fit in the market. Sometimes, in many cases, it takes 10 years or more for a product to be developed and get out of the lab. So the gestation periods are very long. And when you don't have this kind of a risk capital, I think there is going to be dearth in innovation. And I really feel it will be nice if we wake up and start investing in the biotech sector way ahead of the growth curve, right? Like I think somewhere we've had we are seeing this kind of mindset. Okay, semiconductors, people were working on semiconductors for long back. So when it has peaked and down, now we are thinking of investing in semiconductors. So it'll be nice to see people who really have that kind of an appetite and trust and invest way ahead of the growth curve, so that it'll be easier for India to be recognized as an innovation ecosystem rather than a me too or a service kind of ecosystem.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, Fatima. You have won several national awards for scientific achievements. Which award meant the most?
Okay, that's a tough question, right? For an entrepreneur, especially who's struggling, because every award has been kind of a motivating factor for us. But I think the one that's very close to me, I would say, is the Technology Development Board Award for development of indigenous technology that had potential for commercialization, because that was for our COVID-19 sample collection kit. I think as a scientist in heart, that's the most precious award, because that's testimony of my research translating into a product that really had an impact during a crisis like the pandemic. So I think that would be the
Close
most,
to your heart.
yeah, that is close to my heart.
One last question before we jump to the rapid fire round, which is a fun round. What is your vision for Azuka Labs? A little long-term vision.
Okay, so I think the vision is the same like anyway. We started with the vision of building premium molecular biology products from India. I think now we want to be the leader in that space, primarily in terms of genomics and personalized healthcare. I think the world is moving towards personalized healthcare,
Yes.
personalized medicine, personalized cosmetics, and whatnot. So we have a couple of plans to get into the consumer genomic space and be a global leader in the space. I think we are, at present, we are the only company having a platform and end-to-end solutions when it comes to sample collection and things, the entire workflow solutions. So the target is to get that global presence and become a leader.
So we will now jump into the rapid fire round. They are fun questions. You have 4 to 5 seconds to answer. I don't have a bell here, but we would love to hear your first thought. So let's start. The first question is, what was your first job ever?
Teaching. I was a lecturer in a college.
Are you a coffee person or tea?
Coffee.
Early bird or night owl?
Early bird.
One thing you cannot live without?
At present, yoga.
Okay, nicely said.
It keeps changing.
Okay, it keeps changing.
It's subjective, it keeps changing.
Most used app on your phone?
WhatsApp. I'm sure it's for everybody.
I was wondering if you'd say Instagram, but I don't know. Probably not.
Because I do business on WhatsApp. So the most used app is WhatsApp.
Right. Favorite vacation spot?
Iceland.
And your go-to comfort food?
It's Idiyappam and coconut milk.
Okay. If you could have any superpower, what would that be?
I don't want any superpowers, to be honest.
Okay.
Right, when you have superpowers, then you're burdened with more and more work.
Team iOS or Team Android?
Yes.
Last book you read for fun?
I think I stopped reading for fun long back.
Okay.
Maybe Robin Cook. Brain was the last book.
Right.
By Robin Cook. I read for fun.
If you had to describe yourself in 3 words?
Persistent, loyal, meticulous,
Nice. And your favorite ice cream flavor?
blackcurrant.
Okay. What unusual skill or talent you have?
Crisis management. That's what people call me. My dad calls me steel woman because
Oh.
I can handle any crisis without effort.
Nice.
Effortlessly.
If you could meet a historical figure, who would that be?
Abdul Kalam.
What's your favorite holiday tradition?
Just chilling, being at my pace.
And one last question. Who is your childhood hero?
My dad was.
Nice. Thank you so much, Fatima, for joining our show. Thank you, viewers, for watching.